Hey guys, and this is my review of Isle of Dogs. And chances are, your first question is, what took you so long to get to reviewing this movie? Because it came out back in March. It was a while ago, and it's Wes Anderson animated movie that I've been saying in my Oscar predictions is one of the top contenders for Best Animated Feature. So, why did it take me so long? And the answer, quite simply, is I was avoiding this movie like the plague, not because I thought it would be bad, but because I've seen that trailer 50 million times. That trailer played in front of literally every single movie I went to see throughout the entirety of 2017. It was unbelievable. But okay, so let's talk about this for a moment. Uh, why did I end up seeing the movie now? What finally changed my mind? What finally made me decide to stop procrastinating? Well, it was the fact that I went to see the movie Smallfoot, which was my last review, and as I said in that review, my initial reaction walking out of the theater was, "There's a chance that that wins Best Animated Feature," and it was confusing me because I know it's a long shot, and other people are saying it's a long shot, but I decided, okay, you know what? I need to have a firmer grasp of the Best Animated Feature category. I need to see more nominees, more potential nominees, and I might actually see Early Man. I was looking on IMDb. I was looking on demand rather, and it looks like that movie's free, so I might check that one out. But for now, I saw Isle of Dogs, which is one of the top contenders to win the Oscar. Um, and is it gonna win the Oscar? I don't really know. I think it's possible, but it's not a slam dunk contender, which is why we haven't seen that many people rave about it. The thing about this movie is that it is surprisingly a lot more mature than your typical animated film contender. And by that I mean it is PG-13, which I didn't know before watching it. It played in front of the trailer played in front of all these kids movies, so I can only imagine a lot of kids and parents had quite a few problems when they walked out of the theater, because this movie, it goes to some really dark places, and it plays some very serious things, very dramatic things, very matter-of-factly, which I think was part of the joke, you could argue. It's part of Wes Anderson's signature style of humor. But I think a lot of kids and parents would have had a problem with that. Now, speaking of Wes Anderson is probably the most distinctive filmmaker out there. And what I mean by that is if you knew absolutely nothing about this movie going in, within the first 15 seconds, you'd be like, oh, this is Wes Anderson. And his style is that distinct, and it's very much his own. And you can love Wes Anderson, you can hate Wes Anderson. I'll say this, if you love Wes Anderson, this movie isn't going to change your mind. And if you hate Wes Anderson, this movie is going to change your mind. It is, you could argue, very middle of the road Wes Anderson. It is, and you have to admire, the thing about Wes Anderson is because his style is so uniquely his own, he's one of the few directors that can make consistent work in both animation and live action. Because a lot of the times you'll see, with, I think, Pete Docter or Andrew Stanton trying to make a live action movie made John Carter, and that didn't work. Or Zack Snyder trying to do animation with Legends of the Owls or Gahul or whatever that movie was. But one thing about Wes Anderson's style of filmmaking that you can't deny is impressive is the attention to detail. He always makes sure that his movies look incredible, and the same definitely goes with this film because it's stop motion, and because all of the sets are built in miniature. He really goes there, and you can tell that a lot of people spent a lot of time and effort into the making of this movie, and I'm just messing up the English language all over. I'm sorry, I'm just not myself today. So the weird thing is the movie didn't leave it didn't leave that big an impression on me. I think part of the reason might be, as the film goes on, they throw in a couple of twists that some would argue are a little bit hard to follow. I don't know. For me, I think certainly it's not a kids movie. I would not classify this as a kids movie. It's interesting, when I was looking this up on demand, I noticed it wasn't filed under kids or family, only filed under comedy. And at the time, I was like, that's weird, but it totally makes sense now. It is not a kids movie at all, and do not show this to your kids. But one thing I will say I thought was interesting was the decision that not only the story is set in Japan and a lot of the human characters are Japanese, but that there's no subtitles. So you can't, if you don't speak Japanese, then you don't really know what these characters are saying. But I think you can follow along with it, and it works well for the dogs, which do speak in English, because there is meant to be a language barrier, and I think that works. And I think I saw one or two people complain about, how come it's not Japanese actors doing the dogs' voices? I'm like, sometimes you just gotta let this whitewashing stuff go. It's really not relevant for this film, and I think it was a deliberate artistic choice, and it works. But outside of that, it just didn't do that much for me. I can't deny that a lot of work was put into it, and that it looks nice, and that it has good voice acting from like every actor in Hollywood. It is unbelievable how many actors are in this movie. Yeah, if you like Wes Anderson, you'll like this. And if you're not that familiar with Wes Anderson's style, go watch Moonrise Kingdom, and I think that'll allow you to get a good feel of what his style is. And that's, of the Wes Anderson movies I've seen, I haven't seen all of them. Of the ones I've seen, I think Moonrise Kingdom is his best. So check out that one first, and then you can experiment with a few others of his. I wouldn't recommend Isle of Dogs if you've never seen a Wes Anderson movie, because you might get very confused by the distinctive style. So, yeah, that's it. That's Isle of Dogs. It's a good movie. Can it win Best Animated Feature? It's possible if the Academy really likes Wes Anderson, which they gave his last movie a bunch of nominations, so it is possible. But I don't know. It doesn't stand apart from Wes Anderson's other work, and I think there are other films that are more deserving of the Best Animated Feature Oscar. So I think it's a sure bet to be nominated, but a win I'm not so sure about. Okay, that's my review, and see you later.